Hi, I'm Mr. Nova. Welcome to my Maths and Science room. And today we are going to discuss on differentiation. By definition, differentiation is a process of finding the derivative, the slope, or the gradient of a curve. Let's see the first principle of differentiation. By proving the first principle of differentiation, we have to consider a curve below. This curve A up to B. This curve A to B, to find the slope of a curve, you have to implement what is known as a straight line. As we have discussed earlier on coordinate geometry 1, therefore, the slope of a straight line can be given as y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. But a curve and a straight line differ in terms of dimensions. For example, if the line starts at the same point as the curve started, maybe from point A to point B, then if you stretch this curve, the curve will increase in dimension as from A to B, and the curve will appear like this with some dimensions. Therefore, these dimensions, the horizontal dimensions, we call them as change in x, that means increase in x values, and the vertical increment, we call them as change in y. Therefore, from slope equals change in y over change in x equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, we are also able to substitute the value of y2 and y1 if we recall the concept of function. Therefore, if f of x equals to y, therefore f of x1 equals to y1. And if f of x2 equals to y2, then we can take these function values and substitute it into our formula of finding the slope. Therefore, we'll have change in y of change in x equals to f of x2 minus f of x1 divided by x2 minus x1. But from the small changes, as we discussed earlier here, therefore x2 equals to x1 plus change in x. Therefore, our formula will change as change in y over change in x equals to f of x1 plus change in x minus f of x1, you divide by x1 plus change in x minus x1. This is very simple because we substitute the value of x2 from here, that x2 equals to x1 plus change in x. Therefore, after that, this x1 and x1 will cancel out as you subtract. This is positive x1, this is negative x1. Therefore, we remain with change in x of change in y of change in x equals to x1 plus change in x bracket minus f of x1 divided by change in x. Therefore, due to these small changes, therefore, you have to show the reality. Therefore, the change in x is small. Therefore, change in x to appear as small should approach to zero. Therefore, generally, our formula of finding the derivative known as the first principle of differentiation is as follows. Change in y of change in x under the limit of change in x approaches to 0 equals to f of x bracket x plus f of x plus change in x minus f of x divided by change in x. This is known as the first principle of differentiation.